The night my wife called me terrible in bed, I laughed. Not because it was funny. Because it felt unreal. Like I was watching someone else's life collapse in slow motion, while I sat there holding a glass of cheap red wine that suddenly tasted like ash. We were sitting across from each other in our modern Lowe's Angels apartment, floor-to-ceiling windows, city lights glittering like a lie. The kind of place people scroll past on Instagram and think they've made it. But success is loud online and silent at home. And that silence, it was about to shatter. "Ethan," Lily said, not even looking up from her phone, "we need to talk." That sentence, that tone. Cold, detached, like a doctor delivering a diagnosis. I set my glass down slowly. That never ends well. She smirked, just a slight curl of her lip. Maybe if you listen more, things would end better. Strike one. I leaned back in my chair, studying her, my wife of 5 years, the woman I thought I knew better than anyone. Lily Hart was stunning. Effortlessly so. The kind of beauty that made strangers turn their heads twice and women quietly compare themselves. But what drew me in years ago wasn't just her face. It was her warmth. Or at least, what I thought was warmth. "Okay," I said carefully, "I'm listening." She finally looked at me. And what I saw in her eyes. Not anger. Not sadness. Something worse. Disappointment. "I'm not happy," she said. Simple, clean, brutal. My chest tightened. About what? She let out a dry laugh. "You really don't know." "No," I said honestly, "I don't." She stood up, pacing slowly across the living room, heels clicking like a countdown. "It's everything, Ethan, the routine, the boredom, the lack of excitement." "Every marriage has phases," I replied, trying to stay calm. "We can work on." "No," she cut me off sharply, "you don't get it." She stopped right in front of me, arms crossed. "It's not just the marriage." I frowned. "Then what is it?" There was a pause. A long one. And then she said it. "You're terrible in bed." The words hit harder than any slap ever could. For a second, I genuinely thought I misheard her. "I'm what?" "Terrible," she repeated, her voice flat. "I've been pretending for years." Something inside me cracked. "Pretending," I echoed. "Lily, we've been together for." "Exactly," she snapped. 5 years of me faking it. 5 years of lying because I didn't want to hurt your ego." My stomach dropped. Every memory, every intimate moment, every time I thought we were connected. A lie. "You're joking," I said, but my voice betrayed me. "I'm not," she replied coldly. "You've never satisfied me, not once." Silence swallowed the room. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. "Why would you say this now?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "Because I'm done pretending," she said. "I deserve better." Better? The word echoed in my head like a gunshot. "And what does better look like to you?" I asked slowly. She didn't hesitate. "Someone who knows what he's doing." I clenched my jaw. "Is there someone else?" That made her pause. Just for a second. But it was enough. "Not officially," she said. That was all I needed to hear. A bitter laugh escaped me. "Of course." "Don't make this about that," she said quickly. "This is about us, about the fact that you've never been enough." "Not enough." I stood up, my chair scraping loudly against the floor. "You know what's funny?" I said, my voice shaking now. "I thought we were happy." "That's because you were comfortable," she replied. "There's a difference." Comfortable. Like I was some old couch she'd outgrown. I ran a hand through my hair, pacing now just like she had moments ago. "So what? You've just been suffering in silence all these years." "Don't be dramatic," she said. "I tried to make it work." "By lying to me. By protecting your feelings. By humiliating me," I shot back. Her expression hardened. "I'm being honest now. Isn't that what you want?" "Not like this." "God, not like this." "Who is he?" I asked again. She rolled her eyes. "Why does it matter?" "Because it does," I snapped. "Because you don't just wake up one day and decide your husband is terrible in bed unless someone else is making you feel something different." That hit a nerve. I saw it. Her jaw tightened. "You're paranoid. And you're avoiding the question." We stared at each other, the tension thick enough to suffocate. Finally, she sighed. His name is Ryan. There it was. A name. A real person. Ryan who? I asked. She hesitated again. And that hesitation told me everything. You don't know him, she said. I stepped closer. Try me. Another pause. Then, Ryan Mitchell. The world tilted. Because I did know him. Very well. Ryan Mitchell. My friend. No. My asterisk best friend. The guy I trusted more than anyone outside this marriage. The man who had sat on this very couch, laughing with us, drinking with us, celebrating birthdays and holidays like family. You're lying, I said, shaking my head. That's not funny. I'm not joking. Rage surged through me, hot and uncontrollable. You're telling me, I said slowly, each word laced with disbelief, that my best friend is the one you've been comparing me to. I didn't plan for it to happen, she said defensively. It just did. Did what? I demanded. You accidentally slept with him. Her silence was answer enough. My fists clenched. When? I asked. It doesn't matter. When, Lily? A few months ago. A few months. All those nights. All those dinners. All those conversations where Ryan looked me in the eye and called me bro. I felt sick. You've been cheating on me, I said. It's not like that. It's exactly like that. My voice echoed through the apartment. She flinched slightly, but only slightly. You don't understand, she said, her tone softening just a fraction. With him, it's different. Different? Of course it is. It's exciting, she continued. There's passion, chemistry, things I've never felt with you. Each word was a knife. And that makes it okay, I asked bitterly. No, she admitted, but it makes it real. Real? So what were we? Fake. I laughed again, but this time it sounded hollow. You know what's ironic, I said. I trusted him completely. That's not my fault. It is when you break that trust with him. I didn't force him, she shot back. No, I said quietly, you didn't. That realization hurt almost more than the betrayal itself. Ryan wasn't just a victim of temptation. He chose this too. I think you should leave, she said suddenly. I blinked. What? I need space, she added, to figure things out. I stared at her, disbelief washing over me all over again. You cheat on me with my best friend, insult me, and now you want me asterisk to leave. You're making this harder than it needs to be. Harder, I repeated. Lily, you just destroyed our marriage. Maybe it was already broken, she said quietly. That did it. Something inside me snapped, not into anger but into clarity. A cold, sharp kind of clarity. I grabbed my jacket from the back of the chair. Fine, I said. She looked almost relieved. I'll go. I headed for the door, then stopped. One last question, I said without turning around. What? I took a breath. Does he know you told me I'm terrible in bed? There was a pause. Yes. Of course he did. Good, I said. And then I walked out. The night air hit me like a slap, but it helped. Helped me breathe. Helped me think. Lowe's angels buzzed around me, cars, lights, people living their lives like nothing had changed. But everything had changed. In the span of one conversation, I lost my wife, my best friend, and every illusion I had about my life. I pulled out my phone, scrolled to Ryan's name. My thumb hovered over the call button. So many memories flooded my mind. Late night talks, road trips, inside jokes, brotherhood, all of it fake. Or maybe not fake. Maybe just disposable. I pressed call. It rang. Once. Twice. 3 times. Then, Yo, Ethan, Ryan's voice came through, casual as ever. What's up, man? I almost laughed at the normalcy of it. Hey, I said, my voice eerily calm. We need to talk. A slight pause. Yeah, sure, everything okay? No, I replied, Not even close. Another pause. Longer this time. What's going on? I exhaled slowly. I just had a conversation with Lily. Silence. Complete silence. And in that silence, guilt. I could hear it. Feel it. I see, he said finally. Do you? I asked. Ethan, Don't, I cut him off. Don't lie, not now. He sighed heavily. I was going to tell you. When? I snapped. After you replaced me completely. It's not like that. Really? I said. Because from where I'm standing, it looks exactly like that. It just happened, he said weakly. I closed my eyes, shaking my head. You do, accidentally, betray your best friend. I didn't mean for it to go this far. But it did. Another silence. Where are you? He asked. Does it matter? Yes, he said. Let's talk face to face. I considered it. Part of me wanted to punch him. Another part wanted answers. Fine, I said. Send me your location. I'm at my place. Of course he was. Comfortable. Safe. Like nothing had changed. I'll be there in 10, I said. And as I hung up, one thought burned in my mind. Tonight wasn't just the end of my marriage. It was the beginning of something else. Something darker. Because betrayal like this, it doesn't just break you. It changes you. And Ryan Mitchell was about to find out exactly how much. The drive to Ryan's place felt longer than it actually was. Every red light stretched into an eternity. Every passing car felt like it was moving in slow motion, as if the entire city had decided to mock me, forcing me to sit with the truth I had just uncovered. My wife. My best friend. Together. Not just once, not just a mistake. Months. I gripped the steering wheel tighter, my knuckles turning white. Images flooded my mind, Lily laughing at something Ryan said, the way she'd touch his arm casually, the nights he stayed late, claiming he was too drunk to drive. God. I had thanked her for taking care of him. I parked outside his apartment building and sat there for a moment, staring at the entrance. This was it. The line between who I was and who I was about to become. I stepped out of the car. Each footstep toward the building felt heavier than the last. By the time I reached his door, my heartbeat was steady again. Not calm. Controlled. There's a difference. I knocked. 3 sharp hits. A few seconds later, the door opened. Ryan stood there, same familiar face, same relaxed posture, but his eyes gave him away. Guilt. Fear. Ethan, he said quietly. I walked past him without a word. The apartment smelled like expensive cologne and something else. Her perfume. I froze for a split second. You've got to be kidding me, I muttered. Ryan shut the door behind me. She's not here. Not what it smells like, I replied coldly. He ran a hand through his hair. She left earlier. Of course she did. Timing was everything, apparently. I turned to face him. For a moment, neither of us spoke. 2 men. Once brothers. Now something else entirely. You look like hell, Ryan said. I almost smiled. Funny, I replied. I was about to say the same thing about you, but then I realized you probably slept just fine. That's not fair. No, I stepped closer. You're sleeping with my wife, Ryan. He flinched. Good. At least be honest about what kind of person that makes you. He looked down, exhaling slowly. I know how it looks. How it looks asterisk, I repeated. You think this is about appearances. It's complicated. I laughed. Actually laughed. There's nothing complicated about betrayal. He met my eyes again, frustration creeping in. You think I wanted this? Yes, I said without hesitation. I do. That's not true. Then explain it to me, I challenged. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you wanted exactly what you got. He stayed silent. And that silence, it said everything. I nodded slowly. That's what I thought. It didn't start like that, he said finally. Enlighten me. He hesitated, like he was choosing his words carefully. Lily and we started talking more. You were busy all the time. Work, meetings, late nights. So that's my fault, I cut in sharply. No. You stepped in because I wasn't around enough. I stepped in because she was lonely, he said. And you decided the best way to help her was to sleep with her. It wasn't planned. Stop saying that, I snapped. Nothing about this was accidental. His jaw tightened. You don't understand what it's like. Then help me understand, I said, my voice dropping. He took a deep breath. She sees me, he said. I blinked. What? She listens, she actually connects, he continued. With you, she feels like she's just part of a routine. That stung. More than I wanted to admit. And with you, I asked bitterly, she feels alive. Yes. The honesty in that answer hit harder than any lie could have. I turned away, pacing the room. You know what's crazy, I said. I used to think you had my back no matter what. I still do, he said quickly. I stopped. Turned slowly. Don't insult me like that. I mean it, he insisted. I never wanted to hurt you. But you did, I said simply, and not just a little. He looked like he wanted to say something else, but didn't. Because there was nothing left to say. The damage was already done. So what now? I asked. What do you mean? Are you in love with her? The question hung in the air. Heavy. Dangerous. Ryan hesitated. And that hesitation. It told me everything before he even spoke. I don't know, he admitted. I nodded slowly. Translation, yes. It's not that simple. It is to me. I walked toward the window, looking out at the city. So you're in love with my wife, I continued, and she thinks I'm terrible in bed. He winced. Yeah, I said, she told me you knew. He stayed quiet. Of course you did, I muttered. I didn't agree with her saying it like that, he said. Oh, that makes it better, I replied sarcastically. You just kept sleeping with her while she trashed me behind my back. I wasn't laughing about it. Congratulations, I said. You're still a terrible friend. That hit him. Good. Because I wasn't done. You know what hurts the most, I said, turning back to him. It's not even the sex. He looked surprised. It's the trust, I continued. I trusted you in my home, around my wife, around my life. I know. And you broke that like it meant nothing. It didn't mean nothing, he snapped. Then why did you do it? I fired back. He opened his mouth. Then closed it. Because there was no good answer. There never is. Silence filled the room again. But this time, it felt different. Heavier. Darker. Because something inside me was shifting. The anger was still there. But underneath it, something colder. More calculated. I want you to be honest with me, I said finally. I am being honest. No, I shook my head. You've been honest about your feelings. I stepped closer. I want you to be honest about your intentions. He frowned. What do you mean? I mean this, I said. Are you planning to take her from me? The question hit him off guard. I don't think, I interrupted. Answer. He hesitated. And then, if things go that way, yes. There it was. The final blow. Not just betrayal. Replacement. He wasn't just sleeping with her. He was ready to take my place. My life. My future. I stared at him for a long moment. Then I nodded. Got it. Ethan. No, I raised a hand. Don't. He stopped. Because something in my tone told him. This conversation had just changed. You know what's interesting, I said calmly. Lily thinks I'm the problem. He stayed silent. She thinks I'm boring, predictable, not enough. I smiled slightly. But you. I stepped even closer. You just gave me clarity. What are you talking about? He asked cautiously. I tilted my head. You said she feels alive with you, right? Yeah. And you think that's because you're better than me. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. Another pause. Then I chuckled softly. You can have her, I said. His eyes widened. What? You heard me, I continued. If she's what you want, take her. That's not what I. But understand something, I cut in. My voice dropped. Low. Controlled. Dangerous. When you take something that belongs to someone else. I held his gaze. You inherit everything that comes with it. He frowned. What does that mean? It means, I said quietly, you don't get the version of her I had. His expression shifted, confusion mixed with unease. You get the version that lies, I continued. The version that cheats, the version that destroys. That's not fair, he said. Fair, I echoed. You lost the right to talk about fair the moment you crossed that line. He clenched his jaw. You think you're winning here? I asked. I'm not trying to win. But you think you did, I said. You think you got the better deal. That's not. You took my wife, I said, but you have no idea what you actually took. Silence. I stepped back, grabbing my jacket. Ethan, wait. I'm done talking, I said. You can't just walk away from this. I paused at the door, then looked back at him one last time. You're right, I said. I'm not walking away. His expression tightened. Then what are you doing? I opened the door slowly. And for the first time that night, I smiled. A real smile. But there was no warmth in it. Something you'll understand soon enough. And then I left. As I walked back to my car, one thing became crystal clear. This wasn't just about heartbreak anymore. This wasn't just about betrayal. This was about control. They thought I was weak. Predictable. Replaceable. They thought they had already won. But the truth, the real truth, they had just made the biggest mistake of their lives. Because they didn't break me. They revealed me. And now, I wasn't going to fight for my marriage. I wasn't going to beg for loyalty. I was going to do something far more dangerous. I was going to let them have exactly what they wanted. And then, I was going to take everything from them. Slowly, carefully, and without mercy. Revenge doesn't start with anger. It starts with silence. 3 days after I walked out of Ryan's apartment, I filed for divorce. No arguments. No begging. No dramatic confrontations. Just a clean, cold signature on a stack of papers that ended 5 years of marriage like it was nothing more than a canceled subscription. Lily didn't expect that. I could tell from the way her voice shook when she called me. You're just giving up, she asked. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the skyline from my office. I'm not giving up, I said calmly. I'm letting go. That's it, she pressed. No fight, no trying to fix things. You already fixed them, I replied. You found your solution. Silence. Then. So you don't care, she asked, her tone sharper now. That question almost made me laugh. Care. I cared enough to change. And that was something she hadn't even begun to understand. I hope you're happy, Lily, I said simply. And then I hung up. What they didn't know was that I wasn't reacting anymore. I was planning. See, people think revenge is loud, explosive, immediate. It's not. The most effective revenge is patient, precise, and invisible until it's too late. Ryan thought he won. Lily thought she upgraded. Neither of them realized. They had stepped into a game they didn't even know existed. Step 1, distance. I disappeared from their lives completely. No calls. No texts. No emotional outbursts. Nothing. To them, it probably looks like I broke. Like I couldn't handle the betrayal. Like I just folded. That illusion was important. Because underestimation is the sharpest weapon you can hand your enemy. Step 2, information. You see, Ryan wasn't just my best friend. He was also my business partner. We co-owned a marketing agency, one that had grown rapidly over the past 3 years. On paper, we were equals. But in reality, I was the one holding everything together. The clients trusted me. The strategies were mine. The vision. Mine. Ryan was the face. I was the foundation. And foundations are easy to overlook until they disappear. I started small. Quietly, I shifted key client communications to my private channels, framed it as efficiency. No one questioned it. Why would they? I was the dependable one, the stable one, the predictable one. Funny how that works. Then I began restructuring internal systems, access permissions, financial routing, contract renewals, everything subtle, everything legal, everything clean. Ryan didn't notice. He was too busy. With her. Step 3, timing. 2 months passed. In those 2 months, Lily moved in with Ryan. Of course she did. Vast. Impulsive. Passionate. Just like everything else about their relationship. I heard about it through mutual friends. The whispers. The curiosity. The quiet judgment. Because no matter how modern people pretend to be, they still notice betrayal. And they still talk about it. But I didn't react. Not publicly. Not privately. Because my reaction wasn't meant to be seen. It was meant to be felt. The first crack appeared on a Monday morning. Ryan called me. "Hey man," he said, trying to sound casual. "Quick question, did you move the Henderson account?" I smiled slightly. "Yeah," I said. "They requested a more direct line of communication." "Oh, okay," he replied, a hint of uncertainty creeping in. "You could have told me." "I just did." A pause. "Right," he said, "cool." That was the first domino. Over the next few weeks, more followed. Clients started reaching out to me directly. Projects shifted. Decisions happened without him. Nothing dramatic. Just enough to create doubt, confusion, instability. Then came the finances. Now, let me be clear. I didn't steal anything. I didn't break any laws. I simply optimized, reallocated profit distributions based on performance metrics, adjusted operational costs, implemented new investment structures. All things I had the legal authority to do. All things Ryan never paid attention to. Until it was too late. One evening, he showed up at my office. Unannounced. Frustrated. "What the hell is going on?" he demanded. I looked up from my laptop, calm as ever. "What do you mean?" "Our revenue split," he said. "It's changed." "Yes," I nodded, "it has." "Why?" "Because the structure evolved." "That's not an answer." "It's the only one you need." His jaw tightened. "You're cutting me out." I leaned back slightly. "No," I said, "I'm correcting imbalance." "Imbalance," he scoffed. "We built this together." "Did we?" I let that question hang in the air. "You were distracted," I said simply. His expression darkened. "This is about Lily, isn't it?" I tilted my head. "Is it?" "Don't play games," he snapped. I smiled. "I'm not the one who started this." Silence. Heavy. Tense. "You're screwing me over," he said. I shook my head slowly. "I'm protecting what's mine." "That includes my girlfriend now," he shot back. There it was. Girlfriend. Not my wife anymore. Funny how quickly titles change. "You can call her whatever you want," I said. "Doesn't change what she is." "And what's that?" he challenged. I met his eyes. "Temporary." That hit him. Hard. "Get out," I added calmly. He stared at me for a moment longer. Then left. But I could see it. The doubt. The cracks. They were growing. Because here's the thing about relationships built on betrayal. They don't have a strong foundation. They have excitement, passion, intensity. But underneath, there's always a question. If they did it with *U, they can do it to *U. Step 4, pressure. Lily started reaching out again. At first, casually. Hey, just checking in. I ignored it. Then, I think we need to talk. Ignored. Then, Ryan S. been acting weird. That one made me smile. But I still didn't respond. Because timing is everything. A week later, she showed up at my apartment. Unannounced. Just like Ryan had. Funny how patterns repeat. I opened the door. And there she was. Still beautiful. Still familiar. But now, transparent. Ethan, she said softly. I leaned against the doorframe. What do you want? Her eyes searched mine. I made a mistake. Of course you did. I didn't say it out loud. I thought things would be different, she continued. With him. She hesitated. Yes. And. Her voice dropped. They're not. I nodded slowly. Shocking. Don't do that, she said. Don't be cold. Cold? No. This wasn't cold. This was clarity. You said I wasn't enough, I reminded her. I was wrong. You said I was terrible in bed. Her face flushed slightly. I didn't mean it like that. Then how did you mean it? She didn't answer. Because there was no answer that could fix it. I miss you, she said finally. There it was. Not love. Not regret. Convenience. I'm sure you do, I replied. Can we try again? She asked. I looked at her for a long moment. Then I stepped aside. Come in. Hope flickered in her eyes. And that was exactly what I wanted. Because this was the final step. Not destruction. Realization. Over the next few days, I let her back in. Not fully. Just enough. We talked. Laughed. Revisited old memories. She relaxed. Started to believe that maybe she could undo what she had done. Meanwhile, Ryan was falling apart, losing control of the business, questioning everything, including her, especially her. The confrontation happened exactly how I expected. She told him. Of course she did. Because people like Lily, they don't just betray once. They repeat. He called me that night. Rage in his voice. You did this, he shouted. I held the phone away slightly, unimpressed. Did what? You got in her head. No, I said calmly. I just stepped out of the way. You're playing games. I smiled faintly. You taught me well. Silence. Then, you think you've won? He asked bitterly. I looked out at the city lights. Same view. Different man. This was never about winning, I said. Then what is it about? I paused. Let the weight of it settle. It's about consequences. And then I hung up. The next morning, Lily stood in my apartment again. But this time, she looked different. Confused. Anxious. Afraid. Ryan and I are done, she said. I nodded. I figured. She stepped closer. So, what about us? I looked at her. Really looked at her. And for the first time in years, I felt nothing. No love. No anger. No pain. Just nothing. That's the thing, I said quietly. There is no us. Her face fell. But we. You made your choice, I interrupted, multiple times. I came back, she said desperately. Because it didn't work out, I corrected. That's not fair. No, I said, fair would have been loyalty. Tears filled her eyes. Please. I shook my head. You didn't lose me when you cheated, I said. You lost me when you disrespected me. The words landed. Heavy. Final. Goodbye, Lily. And this time, I closed the door. For good. Months later, the dust settled. The business. Mine. Completely. Ryan. Gone. He tried to rebuild. Tried to recover. But trust, once broken, doesn't come back the same. And Lily, she became a story. A lesson. A chapter I no longer needed to revisit. Because in the end, they thought I was weak. They thought I was replaceable. They thought I lost everything. But the truth, I didn't lose anything. I removed what was never real. And what remained was something far more powerful. Respect, control, and a version of myself that would never be broken again.